Well, Jim, you mentioned the performance of Richard Wigglesworth. His experience was the glue that kept a pretty inexperienced side together for Saracens at the Ospreys. He joins us on the phone now. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Yes, how are you?
Good,
Mate,
thanks.
Richard, we are very good. We need to start off with, we have got an elephant in the room, I should say that as well, because naturally there's been a lot of talk around Saracens. The momentum's gathering, so we need to get it out of the way with. Gooley's gone quite hard at Saracens, and he's obliged to do so. As a player as experienced as you, and who's been around the block a lot, and who's involved in a lot of these discussions that are going on now that have been publicised around your future, how are you and how are the team dealing with it?
I think the only thing we can do is get on with it. I think we're all bored of it, to be honest, but understand until it's all sorted, then there's going to be speculation. To be honest, we're not involved. I think some stuff got put out there last week that wasn't really that accurate, but until it's all sorted, I think everyone's allowed to speculate and say what they want, but the sooner it's sorted and cleared up, the sooner we can move on. But it would be an excuse for us as players and a team to let it distract us and use that to start playing poorly and not win games.
Of all the teams I've seen in sport, it seems you guys relish that siege mentality. And just because Jim's here, the definition: a defensive or paranoid attitude based on the belief that others are hostile towards one. That is Saracens. The more shit people give you, the tighter you become and the fucking harder you are to beat.
Yeah, no, we've definitely used it. We had to use it and all the stuff coming our way. But what we did talk about at the start was that's probably got a limited amount of time. That was, that Gloucester week, that definitely fired us up and stuff. But we talked then about we have to be good for us and for what we've created for so long. Because if we all let it throw it out the window now, then it wasn't much good anyway. So it's definitely sort of renewed our focus and let us go after it, but it's not the outside stuff now is not the stuff sort of fueling us it was for a couple of weeks. But we knew that feeling would die down for us, so we didn't want to keep bringing it up. So it's not something we mention too much now, but talk a lot about ourselves and how we're going to get better and keep getting after it.
Well, just to let all the players at Saracens know, Jim said he sold his one-bed flat in Luton, so it's all good now. It's all good.
Perfect. He's on the M1.
But I've no idea I've been brought into this week. That's what I said, mate. Hey, you want the best, you got to sign them. But I was only pissing about when I mentioned me.
Well, let's chat rugby then, mate. Because obviously you were the all due respect, the granddad in the team at the weekend. Load of kids playing and played exceptionally well. You played exceptionally well yourself as well. How much are you enjoying that role as the old fella in the team when you've got a lot of the youngsters around you?
Yeah, I've loved that them sort of couple of games. I've been in that role, the Gloucester week, this Ospreys game. I think I've loved it because these young lads are so promising, sort of joy to be around. They really want to get better and play for Saracens. So this situation's thrown up some opportunities for them in maybe bigger games than they might have thought, but they've really took it all in the stride, and they're a pleasure to lead really, and along with like George Crew and Jackson Ray and stuff, I think the older lads really enjoyed it.
And when you look round, Wiggy, at the academy lads coming through, and there's been a load this season naturally because of the World Cup as well, probably putting you on the spot here, but anyone that you're looking at probably more with your coach's hat on that you're thinking, yeah, this guy's going to be world class?
I think the two that have come that really stood out and looked internationals this year aren't that young, really sort of 19-20 group, but that Ben Earl and Nick Tompkins have been sort of difference makers in games. They really had some moments where you're like, well, yeah, these boys are not just like fitting in, they're making a difference against top opposition. So I'd say those two look really ready to not just play top club games, but some top internationals too.
And let's talk about you then, mate, because obviously I think I'm right in saying you're coming towards the end of your contract at Saracens. You said in the press last week, didn't you? You want to play on, you feel good. Mate, how are you still doing it at 39 years of age? It's...
Yeah, 42 I am, I think. It's no, I think because I love it. It doesn't really seem like a chore. I remember Jim in them changing rooms. looking stiff as an old dog when he was trying to get himself up for training.
I mean, how negative was he? How negative was Jim?
Absolute nightmare he was. In the change room. Tuesday, after his Tuesday mauling session, where he was whinging that he wasn't playing, but he was having to do all George Crew's work, he was unbearable. So
mate, I was having to go back to a flat in Luton. That's what killed me, mate. Trying to get back up the
stairs. Weren't you living in Scotland at the time? You had about a 6-hour journey home. That
in the Ford Mondeo. God, my life. Hey, what a contrast.
So no, I think it's easy to do it when you love it. Taking a few measures to make sure that I still feel good and been unbelievably well looked after at the club. So I think all those things go into feeling good and wanting to play on.
And the coaching aspect of it, again, it's something that is out there in the public domain. There was probably a bit of a baptism of fire during the World Cup with the Canada team. How did you find that? I know there was frustration that the last game didn't go ahead, but from a player that's been very successful and only really known winning and what that means to go in, no disrespect to Canada, to a team that naturally is going to struggle in the World Cup, like how did you deal with that?
I loved it. It was because I suppose any team, any sport, you're only trying to help. You're only trying to get the best out of what you've got, and they were a pleasure to coach. They knew where they were at. They were there to enjoy the experience, but they wanted to rip into it and give it a good go. And we were sort of in the pool of death and had the one last game that we wanted to win. Unfortunately, got called off, but they were a joy to coach in terms of how receptive they were to me and how welcome they made me, and it ended up being a really good experience for me.
And then, obviously, you're coaching, part of the coaching setup, we've spoken about this, at Ealing as well. So just for time management, you're obviously training at Saracens. Your box kicking is always on point. How long do you spend on your box kicking? And then how long does it take to get to training and look after all the Ealing boys as well? Do you have time to see your missus and the kids?
So, yeah, I'll go to Ealing once a week. So it's on my day off in the middle of the week. They run a slightly different week to us, which works well because I'll always guarantee to be there once, pretty much. And then the odd time I'll get there twice, but so I'll go there early on my days off. Missy doesn't love me for my days off not being my days off,
or just full stop. Just doesn't love you full stop.
Trying to patience at the minute, but no, I'm keen to get into that world. So I had a brilliant opportunity to help out down there, and enjoyed it last season, enjoying it this season.
And then box kicking, how long do you spend on box kicking? Because I mean, it's on point every game.
So it varies, but probably a bit smart with how I train it now, a bit more purposeful in what I'm looking to do. The box kick's gone way more contestable than it was, so I spend a lot of my time on distance control and working on that part of it. But most sessions I'll finish with a bit of that. Was
I the only person to ever charge you down, Wiggy, or not? Be honest. It was in training. It was only once in training.
3 yards offside.
Standard.
It's the only good thing I saw you do in the 3 yards offside.
Mate, he got a turnover in the Premiership final against Exeter. I was commentating, and it was 50...
I know, our game was already won though.
Mate, yeah.
That's what he says anyway. Last thing then, mate, obviously looking forward to this game this weekend. We're presuming, and you don't have to tell us, but we're presuming that Saracens will go full noise. You now know that it's in your hands. You win that game against Racing and you qualify. That's huge for the club, isn't it, in terms of what you've been through and where you're at? Are the boys absolutely buzzing for it?
Yeah, no, I'm sure we'll be keen, because it was obviously with the stuff going on, it was wondered what it was going to be like. But what we said last week is wanted to give ourselves a chance. We've done that, so I fully expect us this week to get really stuck into it and excited about obviously a challenge of a massive racing team that are playing brilliant rugby. Coming to Allianz Park, and hopefully we get the right result and takes us through and see what we get. Okay,
one bit of advice, just steer clear of Tamafuna. I think he's hungry again. I think he's hungry for something.
Okay, perfect. I've done well steering away from all the big lads for quite a while, so that'll be on the job description for the next couple of years, I think.
Good stuff.
Richard, thank you very much for coming on the show, mate.
Top, man.
Best of luck this weekend and best of luck for the rest of the comp.